Save money with Snapshot ProView. Instant savings on your commercial auto insurance and vehicle management tools at no extra cost.
X1 Plus offers open source firmware for the Bambu Labs X1 Carbon printer, but now they're offering open source hardware too. The X1 Plus expander and add-on modules opens up a world of new possibilities. Before we start, a quick thank you. If you've seen any of my videos from last month, you couldn't miss my super dodgy moustache. I was amused by all of the descriptions of it in the comments, but ultimately I'm appreciative of all those generous people who donated and raised $1,870 for Movember. So thanks very much for your generous support. Now onto today's topic, new hardware available for the Bambu Labs X1 printer. Let's start with a really quick recap. X1 Plus is an enhanced community firmware for Bambu Labs X1 3D printers, and this is a big deal because X1 Plus is open source and previously those printers were closed source and proprietary. I've made two videos covering X1 Plus. The first, early on, was a fact-finding video aiming to debunk misinformation and providing facts on what exactly the firmware was, how it worked, and the intentions of the developers. Myself and Joel Telling were able to get the X1 Plus team in direct communication with Bambu Lab, and that led to the acceptance of this as a firmware option for X1 printer owners. With Bambu Lab giving the green light, I then made a step-by-step guide showcasing how to install it on an X1 printer. Since then, the team have been chipping away, adding new features with the latest version being version 2.0. But that's the firmware, and this video is about hardware. So, introducing the X1 Plus Expander, an add-on module for X1 3D printers. There's currently a campaign active on CrowdSupply that has around a week left. I'm not familiar with this website, but it seems to be similar in style to places like Kickstarter. If you're interested in ordering one of these for your printer, the best thing you can do is read carefully through the page that outlines how it works and all of the hardware available. In summary, we have our main board that connects to the printer, and then we have a series of add-on modules to enable extra functionality. Furthermore, the firmware side has been expanded to include an action subsystem for chaining together different commands through G-code. So we have a lot more control of the 3D printer and the ability to interface with other hardware, for instance RGB LED strips and sensors for air quality, temperature, humidity, etc. The X1 Plus team sent me some hardware prototypes free of charge so I could be a guinea pig and so I could bring you this video. It has a few quirks being an early version, and I'll point those out as I go. Let's start with the hardware, and this is the X1 Plus expander board, the main component. On the side we have an Ethernet port, two USB ports, and then across the top, ports for a range of input-output. You'll notice that big hole in the middle. Well, that will make sense once we get to installation. To connect the expander to the printer, we have a bespoke wiring loom, and for a laugh, I recommend you read the article about its development on the CrowdSupply page. Like many aspects of what you're seeing here, the production versions will be greatly improved. And to suit those large ports on top, we have our add-on modules, this one here being the end-on board. It's got a 5x5 matrix of RGB LEDs, two switches on top as well as a buzzer. As you can see, it plugs neatly into the top, and there are 4 ports for 4 modules. The second one that I have is the X1 Plus shutter release module. You'll see this one in action later on, manually controlling a DSLR. There's one other existing module that I'm not testing here, and that's the addressable LED level shifter module. In short, it allows you to directly connect and control NeoPixels. So let's get this installed, and we have a special X1 Expander GitHub repo. On that we can scroll down and see that there's a directory for each piece of hardware, as well as one for the plastics for mounting. Here we have a series of step files, a link to the Onshape document for reference and if you want to make modifications, and a link to assembly documentation with step-by-step instructions. Here's all of the parts printed in PETG, so let's put it together. We start with some M3 bolts. I used one M3x20 and 3 M3x12s, and then we have these little standoffs on the inside. We're going to pre-glue them in place so they don't come loose in future. After temporarily pushing a bolt through into position, we take some super glue and put it on the mating surface. One of them is longer than the others, that's the one with the curve on the end, and that matches up to the inside of the case. Repeat for the other 3, which are identical. The back of the case is also going to receive some pre-assembly with these clips that push down into position. Again, we put a little bit of super glue on each of the mating surfaces, and snap them into position so the open lugs are facing left, which is the same side as those two little towers. We do this for all four and let the glue dry. With the printer turned off, we need to remove the touchscreen. We push up on the hinge from underneath and then slide the whole thing to the right, and it should unslot from its mount.
More boxes, more options. Grainger has over 1,700 box types in stock and ready to help you pack, store, and ship everything. And you can count on Grainger to deliver your boxes fast. Count on Grainger for boxes. Call or click Grainger.com/boxes today.
The expander is going to interface with the AP board that's in the upper left corner of the printer, and we have a panel that we can grab from the very corner and pull back in 2 stages to completely reveal the AP board. At first it might seem like there's only one spare port for all of the loom wires, but plugging it in is actually quite simple. Firstly, we're going to squeeze the little lever to unplug the power supply to the AP board. We insert the matching plug from our loom, and then insert the original cable into the female connector on our loom. The same thing is going to happen up the front for the camera plug. My connector had a little bit of silicone glue that I needed to loosen with the blade before I could disconnect it. We have a plug with a red and green wire that now goes into this port, and like last time, the original cable then goes into the matching female connector. There'll be now one cable left, and that is going to be inserted into the port labeled UART on the far left of the AP board. If you haven't already, squeeze the sides of the ribbon cable connector to the touchscreen and then remove it. And then, navigating through this clear plastic protective film, we need to push the other end of the loom through the gap and out the front of the printer, and we want it positioned below the ribbon cable. With the rear case over the expander, we can then connect the loom to the expander PCB and feed the touchscreen ribbon cable through the hole in the PCB. At this point, you'll need to pull any excess wires back through into the chamber of the printer, and that should give you the clearance to put the back of the case into the front of the printer and slide it sideways to lock it in place. The ribbon cable will then go through the hole in the front of the case before it too is positioned, aligning the bolt holes, and we torque up these 4 bolts to snugly hold the front of the case to the rear. The touchscreen's ribbon cable connector can then be reinserted, any excess ribbon cable pushed back into the chamber, and then the hooks on the back of the touchscreen used to hook into the case that we just printed for the X1 expander. To finish, we just have to tidy up the wires on the inside and close the cover for the AP board. Installation complete. Let's remove the SD card so we can update the firmware to support the new expander. At this stage, I was going off this getting started page, which covers installing firmware as well as some other configuration and examples for how to get the most out of the expander. The main build of X1 Plus will eventually support this new hardware, but for now we're using the output of a GitHub Actions run. To update, all we have to do is put the X1P file on the SD card, run the installer from the startup menu, and select the version of the firmware that we just downloaded. Like previously, once we confirm, everything is automatic, with X1 Plus taking itself through the steps needed to update the firmware. Once you reboot and the firmware starts properly, you'll be prompted to update any of the other firmware on the various components that make up the printer's electronics.
Picture this, saving up to 10% when you bundle your home and auto insurance with...
As usual, this is completely automatic and very smooth. Now that everything is up to date, we can head to the hardware page and say that our expander is detected. Mine says serial unknown, but production versions will have this fixed. We can now tap on configure to get a more detailed interface, and again, another limitation of my prototype, it only supports 2 ports, but the production version will support all 4. As you can see, the UI design is consistent with the rest of the printer, and that means slick and functional. Let's test out these new modules. To insert a module, we're going to start by powering down the printer, and then simply plug a module into a port on top. We can now turn on the printer and let it boot normally. Back on our configuration screen, we can see that port A has detected a module. This warning is the intended behavior, and to register the module to the port, all we need to do is tap Save Changes. Where it says placeholder, in future you'll be able to control the LED brightness, and as you guessed, you can also test the buzzer. It's pretty loud and piercing. At idle, you'll get an animated rainbow pattern, but the LEDs can indicate printer status without any additional configuration. I've started a print, and as you can see, the first corner LED is flashing green. And as the print progresses, more and more of these will light up, giving you a visual progress indicator from a distance. When the print is done, they'll all be lit up, and they'll stay this way for around 5 to 10 minutes until the hot end cools down. There's other statuses too, like flashing red if you stop a print early or if there's an error. You also might have noticed that there's 2 momentary switches on top of the module, and these are programmable via the X1 Plus actions. On the touchscreen, we need to enable remote access, and then after logging in, we can then send commands, such as this demonstration one, to let the 2 buttons manually control the Z axis. As soon as you send that command, the buttons are programmed and ready to go. No reboot required. The idea is that each user can program them to do whatever they like. So far so good, so I powered the printer down and then inserted the camera shutter release module. Again, when I started the printer, I went to the menu, the new module was detected, and I just had to tap Save Changes to enable it. On this screen, we now get 2 buttons to manually test the 2 outputs. On the GitHub, there are some early instructions for using this module, as well as some tips for best results. And Josh has also provided a demonstration video to show the benefits of using a dedicated camera instead of the inbuilt webcam for creating time lapses. It's clear from this that you can get a lot sharper images, a lot more detail, and a lot higher resolution, so let's give this a try. My camera has a remote shutter feature, and I bought a remote specifically to suit it. But I had a bit of a fail when ordering this cable to connect my camera to the shutter module. As you can see, every time I hit test, instead of taking a picture, it would start recording a video despite being in image mode. And upon closer inspection, I realized that my cable had the wrong end compared to the remote that I had previously purchased. The X1 Plus guy sent me a link showing me that each brand of camera uses different wiring for their remote shutters. And worst of all, my camera, a Panasonic, was one that needed a combination of resistors and wires to operate. So I went to my local Jcar, purchased the required parts, and constructed the camera end of the cable with the resistors inside. Shorting the 2 wires gave me success, so I completed the other end of the cable to plug into the expansion board. Don't be turned off by this. With new knowledge, I would simply buy the correct cable in the first place. I was then given a 3MF with everything set up to go, and we can see in the layer change G-code that the custom commands are in place to manually trigger a photo on each layer change. You'll notice when slicing, there's also a purge tower in the back corner. And for this to work, we need to make sure we tick time lapse when starting the print job. Before doing that, I set up the camera by placing a pre-printed benchy in the center of the plate and using those handy new Z-axis control buttons to move it up just underneath the nozzle. I then zoomed in, centered the benchy in the viewfinder, set the camera to manual focus and made sure the benchy was sharp. And I also added a red astronomy torch from above to make the lighting a bit more dynamic. At the end of each layer, you'll see the nozzle return back to the purge chute, pause there while the picture is taken, and then the nozzle will be reprimed by adding to that tower in the corner of the bed. For comparison, here's a reminder of what the standard time lapses look like. And this is what I got from my first attempt at using the shutter module to trigger my proper camera. There are 2 main issues. The first is I have not tuned this filament since changing to the Revo nozzle, and the second is that my camera ran out of battery at this point. But there are huge upsides, like being able to zoom in without losing quality because the source images are so much larger. They're clearly much better quality too. One thing I hadn't tested yet was the shiny new Ethernet port. All of my 3D printers connect to this Wi-Fi point behind the desk, and that connects to my main router via Ethernet. So I turned off the access point, and we can see on the network tab that the network is unavailable and we can't connect to it. So let's plug in the Ethernet cable instead, and we can see that instantly we connect to the network and obtain an IP address. We get confirmation of this on the network screen, but we also get it if we switch to our X1 Expander interface. This feature is working as advertised. We'll finish by discussing what's still to come and the potential uses. Let me start by saying that what you're seeing here is probably this hardware in its worst light, because it's an early prototype and it's not the final version.
You have an endless scope of freelancers.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel and welcome to today's video. And boy, do I have a good one for you today. And this is a follow-up to a video that I did a few months ago about Bambu's cloud and using LAN only. And today we're finally going to give the boot to the cloud and get it the heck out of here. So in my previous video, the pros obviously of it were using your own network, but the cons were that you couldn't use the camera, you couldn't use the Bambu Handy app. The not being able to use the camera or to monitor your prints while they're printing was too much for me, because on Saturday evenings we do the live Q&A and I usually print something cool and we get to watch the print fail and me do it 1 or 2 times during that live stream. And without having access to the camera, we really can't do that. So I was forced to go back to the cloud, even though I really wanted to be in LAN only mode. Now, a couple of weeks ago, there was an issue with Bambu's cloud and it sent some rogue prints out afterwards, which I think are just prints that people had sent while the cloud was down. When the cloud became active again, those prints came back down and maybe some of those prints got crossed. I didn't happen to have any prints in the queue during that time, so I didn't run into that issue. Earlier this week, you might have seen on my community post, I was asking if anybody else was having an issue with Bambu's awesome cloud, as I was having an issue and I couldn't print, nor could I use my camera. And I really needed to get something printed for my wood shop up in the garage. So I decided to quickly move it over to LAN only mode so that I could get the print accomplished. While I was there, I noticed that there's now an option to use the camera over LAN only mode, and I got really excited about that. Matter of fact, I turned it to LAN only mode, turned the camera on, and I haven't looked back since. Now, the only thing that I have lost in this process is the access to the Bambu Handy app. The only thing that I really find that useful for is monitoring your prints from away from home. And the only thing that I find that useful for is to watch your house burn down from a ways away. I don't really recommend that you print when you're away from home. It's not very safe. I do not recommend that. So today we're going to go over how to set up your printer in LAN only mode with the camera active, so that we can do that. So if you're a new user setting up your brand new Bambu and you want to use it in LAN only mode, if you're a returning user and you've been using it for a while and you've only been using the SD card, or you've been using LAN only mode and haven't connected the camera yet, I'm going to show you where that setting is so you can turn it on and get that same functionality. Now, again, the only thing that we're going to lose is access to the Bambu Handy app. Now, if you have been using the cloud and you have been worried about the rogue prints, and you have been worried about if you designed something, you're sending your print to who knows where, please somebody, if you know, tell me what country. All of the servers that handle Bambu's clouds are at. If you know what country they're in, I would sure like to know. And it seems kind of ridiculous that we can't just send stuff over the local area network. Why do we need to send stuff over a server in who knows where? So if you're a new user, if you've never connected your printer to Wi-Fi before in fear of having to send everything over the cloud, or if you've been using the cloud this whole time because you wanted to have access to the camera, but now you don't want to use the cloud and still have access to the camera, then today's video is perfect for you. So if all that sounds good, then sit back and relax and I'll get everything ready.
Progressive Commercial Insurance offers affordable small business protection. You can receive discounts on commercial auto insurance for safe driving and paying in full.
it stayed stuck. Right, the next plate we have here is the cold plate with Super Tack. It's perfect for PLA, strong grip while it's hot, and easy release when it's cool. It runs at around 45 degrees to 55 degrees. It helps prevent warping and stringing. If the adhesion on this fails, or fades, sorry, just clean it with some warm water and then refresh it with Bambu Labs Super Tack glue, or failing that, if you haven't got that, you can use just a really light layer of the bamboo glue stick, let it dry, and you're good to go again. Right, so this is the first attempt on the cool plate Super Tack, and as we can see, printing extremely well all the way through towards the end. Right at the end, one of them decided to just collapse. Now, I don't know if the head hit it or what happened, but it just fell. If anyone does know, please mention in the comments. On the second try, no issues again. Printed really well, just like you did on the smooth with the glue. Again, it is printing at 45 degrees Celsius, so you are going to be saving a bit of energy. Again, no issues whatsoever, but it did come off a lot easier than the glued smooth plate, so it does do what it says on the tin. As we can see in the next clip, I did drop one as I pulled it out. Right, our next plate is the 3D effects plate. Right, you got your standard blank plate, and then you get these 4 textured plates. So you've got the stars, you've got the, I was going to call it carbon fiber, but it's not actually carbon fiber. It's carbon texture. So this is your carbon fiber. Pick it up on the camera. And then you've got another starry one. I want to call it a jig from Bambu Labs. So you can print this out. I think it takes about an hour to print out, maybe an hour and a half to print out. So that's the jig. So you can use that jig to actually line up onto the plate. We're going to go with the stars. That'll give us the biggest impact when we print. So, right, let me just get this lined up. So you get the jig. Got your jig. You put in your plate. So it's lined up, he says. Right, there you go. So that's all lined in. And then you get your texture, and you can put that on too. And you've got your clamp. On the clamp, there's a little key. And then you fit the key over the jig, and then you screw tie it. Okay, so we'll get this one side done first. That way we can make sure it doesn't move. Okay, there you go, that one's in. And now we just get this side and do the exact same thing. So you got the key, just line it all up. And then just tighten it down. Okay, and that's it. So once it's tightened down, just give it a double, whoops. I just said give it a tug to make sure it is tight, and then this one comes loose. Nope. Now remember, you don't have to go with Bambu Labs design. There are other ones on there that have been remixed. Right, so you got that. It's in there. And then what you do, you just got to peel, not the top. Is there not a peel bit? Oh. Right, what you do, right, and then you just peel this off. Okay, and what we'll do is we'll go about there. Okay, and then just fold that in, and then you lay that back down. Okay, and just get it. Oh, I stuck down too early. There we go. Okay. Okay, just hold it down. I am going to use my Cricut roller, but again, a lot of the remixes have. And then, I lied, not 10, maybe. Doing is click here, and we recommend over to very well. Thanks for watching. I hope.
Right. Well, I mean, is there a time we can coordinate with him? Okay, that will probably work. Let me, the 13th, hold on, let me look real quick. Well, the way you let everyone in.
Afternoon, everyone.
Okay.
Good afternoon.
Yeah. Alright, I'll give you a call after this.
Will, how are you?
Or we can talk tomorrow, whenever. Just let me know.
Okay,
Good. Cool.
Good. I'm just so Chris, I saw you.
Yeah, definitely.
Alright. Good afternoon, everyone. Nice to meet all of you. I think this was born out of some conversations that I've had with Sylvan and City of Modesto, and we know that we have quarterly meetings in Modesto City Schools, and thought it only appropriate to also have quarterly meetings with Sylvan Unified School District as well, since you guys are part of the city and an important component of our community. So with that, I think probably introductions would be best, and I'll start on our side. I'm Joe Lopez, I'm the city manager. Really excited to have this conversation and see where it goes. And I will turn it to Allison.
Good afternoon, everyone. Allison Van Gilder, Deputy City Manager. Nice to meet everyone. And I'll pass it over to Jessica.
Hi there, I'm Jessica Hill. Good to see you, Edie and Lizette. I'm Director of Community and Economic Development, and I'll pass it to Bill.
Thank you, Jessica. Good afternoon, everyone. Bill Sandu, I'm Director of Public Works. And good meeting you all. I will turn it over to Jeremy.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeremy Rogers. I'm the Director of Parks, Recreation, and Neighborhoods for the City of Modesto, and I'll pass it over to Will.
Thanks, Jeremy. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Will Long, Director of Utilities for the city. Toby.
Thanks, Will. Good afternoon. Good to see you again, Dee and Lizette. Toby Wall, Director of Engineering Services, City Engineer, working on a lot of development projects as well as a lot of capital projects. And just everybody on our team, I think we'll turn it over to you, Dee.
Excellent, thank you. So, Edie Peterson, Superintendent of Sylvan Union School District. Thank you so much for inviting us to this. This is following a meeting that we had with Toby and some other city people. So it's very nice to meet all of you and put some faces and names together. So Lizette.
Yes, good afternoon. Nice to see some familiar faces. Lizette Aguilar, Assistant Superintendent of Business Services. And look forward to some quarterly meetings beyond some of the meetings we've had with some of you regarding projects and construction. And just look forward to hearing more. And I will pass it over to Martel.
All right, well, I'm Martel Taylor. I'm the Director of Facilities, Maintenance, and Operations for Sylvan Union, and I also am happy to be meeting with you all.
Hi, I'm Mark Favela, the Director of Technology for Sylvan Schools. Nice to meet you.
And we have Scott Ferrer with us. Maybe. Scott Ferrer is our principal at Somerset Middle School. He had something going on, so he'll probably be in and out a little bit. And then we have Chris Long.
Hi, my name is Chris Long. I am teacher and president of Sylvan Educators Association. I'm having an issue with my camera right now. I'll work on that, and hopefully you guys can see me.
Thank you. I think that's all of us.
See, Carrie, note taker on here, but I don't see Carrie. So I don't know if she's trying to join or.
Is that our Carrie?
I think so.
Yeah, our Carrie was needing to go home to take care of something, maybe. So maybe she's trying to travel and be on a meeting. Who knows?
Maybe.
I hope not.
Right. Didn't we have kind of an agenda laid out here, Allison? Allison, why don't you take over?
1 second, I'll pull it up.
Have it in front of me. The first item was existing and upcoming construction projects.
Who's going to take that? Toby?
Yeah, I can talk about some of the general projects in the area there. One, I'll start with a project that's not ours. So the North County Corridor, obviously, that is a county project, but the most recent, in early October, the closure of Roselle, that basically shifted some traffic around, and that will be closed for a year. Shifting primary traffic in Roselle north of Sylvan, shifting to both either Claus Road or Oakdale. So again, it was part of the North County Corridor project. County did coordinate with us on that project, but it did shift traffic. Bill and his team on Public Works side did adjust signal timing in and around the area, but that will, be a long-term closure over the course of a year. We have existing construction as part of development on Sylvan. So this is the KV Homes project, referred to as Snow. They are getting ready to do the finished pavement on Sylvan there east of Oakdale, hopefully within the next 2 weeks, assuming the weather holds. So that's active construction in that area. Then we've got a number of subdivisions in that area that are undergoing construction. So as we mentioned, KV Homes has 2 projects. In addition, a little further east, we've got the D.R. Horton project that is off of Claus Road and Briggsmore. That's active construction, and that will get more intense here in the coming 2026 as they start doing their work on Claus Road. That's kind of the big picture items. If there's any specific projects that are concerning to specific schools, let me know. I can cover those, but those are kind of the big picture capital projects we got kind of in and around the district on that eastern side of town.
Thank you for the update on those. We really appreciate it. Of course, we're hearing lots of things from parents as they're trying to figure out other ways to, even if it's just that little piece of Roselle, it did impact, the schools on that sort of that piece over there. So just appreciate the communication, even though I know that's a county project, but just the communication from the city as well when there are things like that coming up so that our families can kind of prepare. Traffic's always the top topic. So I will say we've worked very closely with Max Navarro. He's come to some of our focus groups. He's come to our advocacy team. I actually just I sent him a letter from our advocacy team, and we just really appreciate, I know this isn't construction, but I'll throw it in as kind of safety, kind of development. Just really appreciate the work the city's done on street safety, the Safe Streets for All campaign. We've really tried to get behind that with you, and it's easy for us to come and provide our the complaint list that we receive from all of our constituency and all of our community partners, but we really feel like there's some really actionable things that you've done and they've made a difference. So we highlighted those in the letter to Max and then listed some other things that we're hoping might happen. So I don't know where that fits in this agenda, but I just want to thank the city for that partnership and look forward to more updates around street safety, all the things with crosswalks and the safety lights, the reduced speed limits are helpful, of course, and all the rest of those pieces. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I sit on that task force with Safe Streets for All with Sandy Tyler, our Director of Transportation, and it's just been a great experience. Max is super responsive and has been great coming to talk to our parents. And just anytime we've reached out to him, big kudos. He's been great to work with.
All right. Are there any other updates regarding any construction projects? If not, we'll move on into development projects. Is there any updates here?
So I can add a little bit on the kind of really development, as I mentioned, kind of high level, both the D.R. Horton Crossings project as well as the Tivoli North. What I'll do is just kind of share, let me pull this up real quick, just to kind of talk through some names that you guys may hear. Let me share this real quick. You able to see my screen there?
Yes.
Yeah, so this is the Tivoli specific plan area. And so these are names of the property owners. And so Right here in the middle, you can see the property owned by the Sylvan School District. So I mentioned earlier the Snow property. So this is KB Homes. They're under construction on this subdivision here, and those improvements that I mentioned along Sylvan. KB Homes also is owner of Arcadia, so building homes in this area as well. So those are the active projects in Tivoli that are under construction. We have approved the Martin subdivision, which is here on Oakdale Road. That is started construction, but likely won't get into real construction until early 2026. We'll have some impact on Oakdale Road. We have tentative maps, i.e. the projects that are in entitlement process for Mabel, Alves, and a portion of Parisian. So there's residential on this side of Parisian, and then the larger part of Parisian is a commercial, future commercial development. So those are actively working through the entitlement process with Jessica's team, as well as our land development team. We have interest in the property that is referred to as Trombetta, as well as this number 18, which is the Pickerel property, that there is active movement. They're not yet submitted on entitlements, but are actively working to develop those areas and look for submittal. Olivewood has an approved tentative map, so not yet into the final map process, but is approved for future construction. And we have a tentative map that is being processed, which is referred to as Belconte down in this area. So as you can see, a lot of activity in the Tivoli specific plan area that was likely going to put pressure on the Sylvan district and your timing relative to school, because that's, you know, a couple thousand units when it's all said and done that is currently kind of in that particular area. So I'll pause to see if there's any questions. I know Jessica's team has been meeting with you guys about those, but if there's any questions, just want to give you an update on where those at from a construction standpoint.
Yeah, we meet with Jessica and Edgar and team regularly, and just appreciate all their communication and continuing to collaborate on the Tivoli project. Working to find a solution.
Yeah, I know, Jessica, if you wanted to add anything else on in terms of any of the other activity out there.
I think just the only other one is directly adjacent to that. I'll kind of pull up the GIS. Is this area where we did receive some feedback from Modesto City Schools. So again, just sharing with you because there is overlap for Sylvan School District. It's called Founders Point East. That was just approved by LAFCODA being annexed within the city of Modesto. And so there is 80 acres that will be residential. And so I do anticipate there will be an application for a tentative map within the next couple months where it will be referred to you guys to ensure that you apply appropriate conditions and feedback to the development itself. So for reference here, let me get an aerial, share my screen. So this specifically was the area that was annexed, and this area right here will be the area that is looking to be single family homes, residential. It's 80 acres.
That's the one, Jessica, I believe it was a joint letter from City of Modesto. Okay, with Sylvan, and yeah, I don't recall the standing union as well, but yeah, we worked together on providing a response for that.
Great. And so, you know, when we do receive the application for the tentative map, it will be referred out to all parties where you can add those conditions of specifically for that project.
All right, great. Are there any other development projects that we want to provide an update on? If not, we can maybe touch on safety again. And I know Dee Dee had already shared some safety-related updates, but is there anything else on the City of Modesto side that we want to report out on?
I don't know if, well, we had shared a little bit of concern internally. The development will be at between Claws and the railroad track is too small of an area for us to put a school there. So all the children that will be moving out there will need some way to get either across, well, to get across Claus in order to attend school. We will probably have some busing available, but we know that always won't be, well, that won't always be practical for some of the families, or some of the kids may choose to take other avenues. And so we're just kind of concerned about Claus being so large already, or so busy already, and plan to be so much larger, and how those kids will be able to get to school safely. And
yeah, I can speak to the Claus Road. So as part of the approvals for the D.R. Horton project, so the D.R. Horton project is 551 lots. Their conditions of approval require the reconstruction of Claus Road, and it was changed from a 6-lane expressway to a 4-lane arterial. So it will not be a 6-lane facility, it will be a 4-lane facility. There will be a roundabout installed at the intersection. Ultimately, 3 roundabouts along Claus, one at Merle, one at Floyd, and one at Milne's. So the corridor will change pretty dramatically from what it is today, which is a long, straight speedway. It will change to a more, arterial that is designated and built for the specific needs out there. That intersection of Merle and Claus Road is, as I mentioned earlier, that's the piece that will start construction in early 2026 with the installation of that roundabout. That roundabout also will include a Hawk signal. So the Hawk is the flashing beacon that will allow for a much safer pedestrian movement. It will also limit the crossing distance to 2 lanes at a time. So you'll be able to cross 2 lanes, have an island for refuge, and another lane with a controlled light there. So it is built for that specific consideration. And the roadway for Claus actually gets completely reconstructed as well, putting in a significant curve in the road to slow down traffic, to allow for the traffic calming along that corridor. So that will be the first piece of construction. Will go from Briggsmore to the full limits north of Merle. That will be constructed in 2026.
all right.
Okay, we appreciate that. We will be sending just a response on that environmental information form with just expressing some of that and reiterating just always a safety concern there. But that helps to know because we can also take that information and share that.
Yeah.
Any other safety topics?
So as this is our first meeting with the city, thank you so much again for your time. I know everybody here is so busy. What kinds of topics do you typically talk about with Modesto City? I know obviously they're a bigger school district with much more facilities and all those impacts. But we were talking as a team so that we could also be prepared to talk about them. I said when we get in there, let's find out like what kinds of things. What kinds of things would you like to know from us that are helpful?
I mean, from our perspective, any site facilities planning that you're looking at where you have, construction you're planning on where you may need city services, water, sewer, that's why, we've got the other groups here, any future needs of changes, those are always helpful. If you're going to have any construction, during the summer that we may have construction, on a site that may impact something that we're planning to do. Those are always very helpful for us for planning purposes. The summer continues to get shorter and shorter. We try to do work during the summer, but the reality is it's 11 weeks at best. And so we're all trying to do work at the same time and likely in the same 10 feet. So anything you can help provide, any work that's going on is definitely one of the common topics with Modesto City Schools is, their work on their sites and how we can kind of coordinate on that. So that's definitely an ongoing conversation. The, kind of school safety piece in terms of like traffic safety and, the Safe Streets for All is one example, but, our neighborhood traffic calming program, where we put in, speed tables and those type of things. Those are great conversation in terms of what your needs are, what your school sites are seeing. That's always helpful for us as well. As part of that neighborhood traffic calming program, we do have segments that are around schools that meet the criteria. And so often we'll reach out to the actual school site for help in getting the neighborhood to support those activities. So those are kind of topics that we'd bring up on occasion where we need some help from a principal or from a school site to say, hey, this is something we need in the area. So just a couple of ideas that typically come up.
Yeah, we also talk about like safety type concerns, like if we need to coordinate meetings with the police department, fire department, or any of those types of things. And then also from a recreation standpoint, I'm not sure how many partnerships we have that involve recreation, after school programs, field usage, and things of that nature, and then also identifying areas of opportunity where we can potentially partner on things that you want to see in your district and amenities that we want to be able to provide to our community, and see how those things kind of mesh. So, I mean, usually we talk a lot about coordination and just making sure we're finding the most opportunities to partners, really. And I'm sure over time these conversations will build as we start identifying common areas that we can work together. And so, usually when we meet with city schools, we talk a lot about construction and when construction's happening and how it's impacting schools and identifying solutions to.
Well, with all their bond measures, they have lots of construction.
Oh, we know. We hear about it.
I bet. Well, even just the neighborhood, the traffic calming program, we did some presentations on that, shared those resources with families. The addition of the speed humps on Tokay near Stanford Elementary have made a real positive difference for us. People can really, what we find, and Scott Ferrer is on here, he's the principal at Somerset, so the front of his school is on Floyd, the back is on Rummel. And those are two spots that, as you know, there's lots of issues, and we've had some, unfortunately, some collisions and some other accidents there. But what we find is where they can pick up speed before the next stop sign is, and if that's near the school, that's always an area of worry for us. So even the speed humps on Tokay made a real difference. The school right away said, wow, this has really cut down on traffic, because people go around because they don't want to deal with it, and help people really slow down with the crosswalk that's right there across from school. So appreciate that. And we shared some of our specifics with Max with that letter. So anyway, he has that. We gave him that with some other specifics and including Rumble and Floyd. I don't know, Scott, if you wanted to speak at all to just the traffic in and around Somerset, Sherwood, and Sylvan Steam Elementary are all kind of right there by each other and are in that area. He didn't have audio earlier, but maybe he does now.
No, I can hear you. Thank you. So I think it continues to be an area of concern. In the 8 years I've been here, we've had 1 or 2 kids hit by cars every year, whether they're on a bike, scooter, or walking. I know the 3-way stoplight was installed after one of those unfortunate incidences about 7 years ago, but there continues to be a need. Right in front of the school is actually a really high traffic area where they do pick up a lot of speed from the first stop sign to the second stop sign down by Sunset. So I don't know if there's any attention that can be brought to that.
So, Scott, why don't you go ahead and send an email on that so we can take a look at it. I'll have Max take a look at it. So I think we did install some infrastructure there along Somerset and also on a number of areas, right? I think flashing beacons were installed in a couple of locations.
Yes, there's one installed at one of the stop signs right there to the, I guess it would be the east of the school. Yeah, so that's definitely been helpful.
Yeah, and you also installed some sort of beacon on, I think it's Bay Avenue that connects across Rumble, nearby our nutrition services, and I forgot to highlight that one, so thank you. Yes, and that was neighbors outside with posters and chanting for a long time. So we really appreciated being able to respond to the neighborhood with that piece.
Yes, so sometimes we discourage any mid-block crossing because it could cause more damage than good. So that's why, if there are any other opportunities, so yeah, please let us know. We would definitely take a look at it. So, these are the things we talked about with the other school districts also. You're maybe striping missing their signs, the trees blocking the entrance or exit or those are street trees to the schools or the visibility or things like that. So those are also kind of some of those ongoing or current issues we talk about. So this will be a good place to talk about and so that we can take a look at it.
What is the city stance on? I know I've seen like at Elk Grove and a couple other surrounding cities where the schools have partnered with the community on making the crosswalks. I've seen like at elementary schools like crayons, so it just colors them up a little bit to make them more school related. Just a reminder, this is a school area. Is that something that you guys would be open to?
So you're talking about Scott raised crosswalks?
Say it again.
Is that raised crosswalk, right?
No,
yeah.
I don't. Maybe some of them are. It's bringing obviously more color to it, right? So aesthetics, but also bringing more attention to it because of the design. So it's a partnership from the community and the school.
So we're always open to it, but at the same time, keep in mind the standard crosswalk around the school with yellow striping there, and they're very visible. If you go to non-standard, that could pose some other issues also.
Okay. Thank you.
The other thing I'll mention, big picture, the Safe Streets for All was mentioned, and Max is leading that effort. But that Safe Streets for All is really a accumulation of other efforts that we were completed. I know Dee Dee and Lizette, when we met, I provided you with some of those documents the school safety analysis that we've completed. So we've got all of this information, and what the SS4A is doing is putting that together and ultimately putting our priorities. Right? Obviously, there's a lot of schools across this city, putting those all those areas into a matrix, so to speak, so we can create this focused effort of where to focus, our limited resources of making those improvements, and also then being able to leverage those to go after additional funds for those improvements. So these are really still in this planning area. We've got some good information coming out of the SS4A. Once that's completed, we're then in a position to go get funds to go make some of these improvements. So I know it feels like a long time of lots of studies, but these studies all build on each other to kind of build our case for what our needs are, so that we can then strategically address, these types of issues that Scott just talked about.
We've been sharing that with, our community. We've sent it out when we have some of the flyers. We've sent it out through our Parent Square communication to all parents, so that they can provide hopefully some, feedback and input, the maps, the pop-ups when you have those. So we're really trying to get that out and let them know this is part of working towards that bigger picture. So yeah, we have been sharing that and appreciate just being part of that process.
Yeah, certainly appreciate the outreach, and of course the other piece of this puzzle is communicating strongly and positively, but strongly with our parents to drive carefully and slow down, and all of those things in and around our campuses. So please know we're doing both of those. We'll have a safety message going out pretty soon that just reminds everybody with the time change and all of that. Please drive slowly, be aware the sun in your eyes, all those things. So appreciate the outreach has been excellent, and we really have tried to partner. We made banners with some of your logos and did all of that to kind of promote it at every site. So kind of supporting your efforts, but also working on the other end, which is we need safe drivers.
And if they're not safe, they're going to get cited. So our PD's not on here today, but just know that we have doubled our traffic enforcement efforts, and the number of citations that we've issued this year will likely be double what they were the previous year, if not a little higher. So, and obviously there's a big focus on school zone safety. So parents can be reminded to slow down, but if they don't, they're going to get a ticket. So that'll remind them.
Yeah, one of the biggest things from Safe Streets for All is public education also. That's where the schools and school districts can help the city in public education. That's because that's the key element of safety. So just I think engineering is one of them. Education is another big one. So that's where I think you can always help us.
Thank you.
All right. The last item on our agenda is just a roundtable. If there are any items that maybe didn't fit into the categories that we've already gone through, is there anything that anybody wants to discuss? And certainly if we want to maybe put something on the list for the next meeting, we can also do that now, or feel free to email Michelle Thompson, our executive assistant, and she can start helping to build the agenda for the next meeting. And I would just add that if there are any emergent issues that come up before our next meeting, please don't hesitate to reach out. It sounds like you are all in regular communication with at least some of our staff, but we certainly don't have to wait till the next meeting. If there's something important that needs to be addressed, we can arrange to connect.
Well, we really appreciate this first kind of meet and greet and just sort of overview, so we knew what to expect, and we'll also gather as a team prior to the next meeting and kind of put our thoughts together. And we just appreciate the updates. There's a lot of excitement over in this northeast corner because they see the houses going up, so or they think they're going up. So just being able to talk about that and getting just more information, that just helps us inform our community. So appreciate it. We know everybody's very busy, so we just appreciate your time and making this opportunity to connect with us as partners.
Great. It was nice to meet all of you, and hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.